Hey there everyone, thank you so much for being here, thank you so much for watching. This right here is the new Synology DS923 Plus. Full disclosure, this device was given to me free of charge by Synology, but Synology is not paying for this review, they're not sponsoring this video, and they do not get to watch it before it's uploaded to YouTube. Now I'm going to jump to my bottom line here. This is a downright fantastic device, absolutely great. If you've been watching this channel, you know that I am a long-time Synology user and I'm trying to judge this device as objectively as I can. With Synology, it's always been a game of give and take in certain features. This is why I'm saying it's the almost perfect NAS. It brings to the table at least 4 major improvements. Some of them are game-changing, but there's an asterisk hanging above these improvements. For example, for a long time we wanted Synology to give the 4 bay units 10 gig connectivity, and they have done it with an asterisk, and I will talk about it in just a little bit. For a long time we wanted to be able to decide how we utilize NVMe drives. Up until today we could only use them as NVMe cache. Now we can use them as NVMe volumes. Together with 10 gig connectivity, that's dynamite, but with an asterisk. I will talk about it in just a little bit. The CPU in this device was changed to an AMD Ryzen CPU, which is a monster. It outperforms its predecessors, the Intel Celeron CPU in the DS920 Plus, by a long shot, by far. And this CPU change was also done partially to enable another noteworthy improvement, and that's using ECC memory. ECC memory is always kind of a backstage kind of thing, but it's a big deal, both for the system stability, but more importantly, for the integrity of your data. This came with a huge asterisk, and I will talk about it in just a little bit. Plex users, you are not going to like it at all. The expandability of this device is always been great in this family of products. 10 gig connectivity, NVMe, and the RAM can be upgraded up to 32 gigs of memory, which is dynamite. So without further ado, let's dive just a little bit deeper and break down all these noteworthy changes. Alright guys, so this is the DS923 Plus unboxed, and as you can see it's a pretty standard form factor. It's completely the Synology design language for the 4 bay NAS. I like the current aesthetics, and the form factor, for me, it's a very logical desktop form factor. But if you're new to NAS, if you're new to Synology, you might be even asking yourself, but why? Why do I need this device? What can it do for me that an external hard drive I currently use couldn't? So these are two different worlds. For example, an external hard drive needs to be physically attached to each and every computer you want to back up data from, whereas a NAS connects to the network, so it can serve all of your computers all at the same time. Another example is that an external hard drive is just a hard drive with a plastic enclosure, and once the hard drive dies, that's it, the data dies with it. Whereas with a NAS, in this case, you have 4 hard drive bays that you can populate with hard drives, and you can create something that's called a RAID array, meaning that drives all work together, and even if a hard drive completely dies on you, you can just go to the store, buy a new hard drive, pop out the faulty one, pop in the new one, and the RAID array will rebuild itself without any data being lost. So even if there weren't any other advantages, just these 2 advantages justify switching from an external hard drive to a NAS, but it's not over in this point. This actually is a miniature computer. It has an operating system that you access via a web browser, and it has a sort of an app store that you can download packages to extend the capabilities of the NAS. For example, with Synology Active Backup for Business, this device can back up all the computers on your network, not only to the level where you can restore individual files and folders. You can even restore complete computers, bare metal restores. Even if a computer completely dies on you and won't boot up anymore, you can restore it down to the operating system level, which is crazy. With Hyper Backup, the device will facilitate backing up data stored on the NAS to another repository, if it's a remote Synology NAS or a cloud storage provider, it's a very bad idea to have the NAS as a single point of failure. You need to have several copies of your data, preferably in two different physical locations. The device will do it. With Synology Drive, you can have a full-on Dropbox alternative with all the features, so you can tell Dropbox thanks but no thanks and stop paying for their services. With Synology Photos, you have a full-on, full-featured Google Photos alternative, complete with facial recognition, with personal albums, with shared albums, so you can go ahead and tell Google thanks but no thanks and stop paying for their services as well. But it doesn't end there. It can do virtual machines, it can run Docker instances, and the list is, again, it's almost endless. So let me get back on point, talking specifically about the DS923 Plus. As I said, if you recall in the intro, for me, using Synology devices was always a sort of a give and take. And you can see how it's apparent, especially in the DS923. We always asked, for years now, we asked Synology to give the 4 bay units an option for 10 gig connectivity, and they done exactly that. Now we have an option to pop in a 10 gig network card, but remember I told you there's an asterisk there? Here it is. You will need to use a proprietary Synology device that costs around, I think $150 or $160. You pop out a lead in the back of the device, slide in the network card. I will do a separate video on this topic, and you instantly gain 10 gig connectivity. Another nice touch for this card, unlike previous generations PCI network cards, they used to do only 1 gig or 10 gig connections. This device can do 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig speeds, which is a very nice touch. With NVMe drives, this device, like its predecessors, have 2 NVMe drives on the bottom, and for years now we have asked Synology, give us the freedom to choose how we use the NVMe drives. In previous devices, we only had the option to use them as NVMe cache tier, but without the option for 10 gig connectivity. This caching tier was, I think, mostly unused or used only internally in the NAS for virtual machines, databases. Without being able to use this NVMe cache outside the network or being kept at 1 gig connectivity, the NVMe cache was in a lot of cases useless. This time we do have the option to take NVMe drives and create NVMe volumes, but there is a huge asterisk there, because if we just want to use NVMe drives for caching, we can use whatever brand of drives we want. But if you want to create an NVMe volume, you will have to use a Synology NVMe drive. So that's the give and take on that topic. I want to address now what will probably, a lot will agree with me, the huge elephant in the room. The CPU in this device is no longer an Intel CPU, it's an AMD Ryzen CPU. It's a variant of an AMD Ryzen CPU that doesn't have a GPU built into it. Meaning, Plex users, this device, bottom line, will not be able to do hardware transcoding. I'm a Plex user. This for me came as very bad news, and I contacted my contact in Synology and I asked him, why did you guys do it? What's the justification? What drove you to this decision? And he told me something that, I hate to say it, makes a lot of sense. Synology needed to make the switch to use ECC memory. ECC memory is a big deal. It's something that is always kept, I think, backstage or something. The advantages are huge in regards to system stability, and the integrity of your data, it's a huge deal, but they needed to find a CPU that will support ECC. And in order to not drive costs too much higher with Xeon processors, for example, they chose the AMD Ryzen CPU. And you have to understand that Synology was never a media company or an entertainment company. Hardware transcoding was always nice to have. The main business for Synology is the data and the longevity of the system and the stability of the system and the integrity of your data. With ECC memory, they're achieving this goal, so they actually had to do it. So that's the justification for moving to this CPU. And as a die-hard Plex user, I don't have a choice. I need to agree that this choice makes a lot of sense, and I will need to find another solution for my Plex media server. Alright guys, I do want to have some more time on this video to do at least some 10 gig connectivity tests. So let's go over to the computer and start seeing stuff. Alright guys, so we are at the computer, and just to get this out of the way, let's go over the spec sheets for this device. It's in CPU, it's got an AMD Ryzen R1600 CPU. It's a dual core CPU, but trust me, it definitely outperforms the quad core Intel CPU in the DS920 Plus by far. It's only dual core, but it outperforms it in almost every way. It doesn't do hardware transcoding, sadly, for me personally. In terms of memory, this device comes out of the box with 4 GB ECC memory, upgradable up to 32 gigs of memory. Don't try to use non-ECC memory on it, it will just not work. In regards to network connectivity, this device comes with 2 1 gig Ethernet ports. They can be aggregated, but I don't see it as a really practical option. A lot of people, including myself, thought that this device will already come with 2.5 gig network ports. I was wrong. But speaking of network connectivity, this device does have the option for a proprietary 10 gig network card, and this is the network card in spec sheets. It's this model right here. I will do a video on exactly how to upgrade everything there is to upgrade about this device, including this 10 gig network card. But as I said, this device goes through a special slot in the back of the device. It only goes in one way, so you can't get it wrong. And this device can do 10 gig, 5 gig, 2.5 gig, 1 gig, and even 100 megabits. So that's a great touch right here. Alright, so let's go into the DSM operating system. And this DSM operating system is just a regular DSM operating system. I think it went under a bit of a modification to allow NVMe volumes through the GUI. By the way, I think this feature is not fully baked yet. I think that the performance I got were fine and solid, but they were a bit underwhelming. My guess is that towards DSM 7.2, we'll see some more software improvements. Plus, and again, this is just my guess, we will see a new generation of Synology NVMe drives with maybe more DRAM cache, so they will better support random read and writes. But let's see how to create this NVMe volume. Let's dive right into the storage manager. Let's go to the storage tab right here and create a storage pool. Click on next. I'm going with just JBOD just for the purposes of this demonstration. Now, if you were to put a non-Synology NVMe drive, you would not be able to go past this point, and you will see a red warning that the drive is not supported or something like that. Since we are using a Synology drive, we are able to select it and click on next. I'm going to skip the drive checks and apply and OK. And now the storage pool is being created. Great. Now that we have a storage pool created, we can go ahead and create a volume, and we'll select the storage pool too, select the max for the size, click on next, VTRFS of course, apply, and now we will have an NVMe volume that we can use to select the data that we want to live on the NVMe cache. Now, just for the demonstration purposes, let's go ahead, to the control panel and create a shared folder. Let's give it a name of test, select the volume to be the NVMe volume. I'm just going to next all the way through. And now we have a shared folder on our Synology NAS that is hosted or stored on the fast NVMe drives. That's a great addition. Alright, so let's do some 10 gig speed testing. Now, to be realistic, we will probably not be able to saturate the entire 10 gig link, not without enterprise grade equipment, switches, drives, RAID controllers. We are in a more domestic environment, so we'll probably not be able to saturate the entire 10 gig link, but let's see how much we are able to saturate the link. I already created a Docker image on the NAS with an iPerf server, and I'm going to run an iPerf test. I'm going to have to do it off camera because doing it on camera really stresses the CPU on my computer, which lowers the result. So I am going to run the iPerf test off camera, and I'm going to resume the recording once the iPerf test is done. I'm going to do it several times to get a real world average. Alright guys, so this is the iPerf test. I ran it against the IP address of my DS923 Plus, and you can see that we're averaging on 6.4 gigs, which is an awesome result. I actually didn't expect it. Alright guys, so this was my take on the DS923 Plus. Overall, it looks like a great device. If you're in the market, definitely check out this device. The device is super fast, super responsive. The 10 gig connectivity is an excellent touch. The NVMe volumes are an excellent touch. I do regret not being able to do hardware transcoding for Plex. By the way, if you're going to get this device or already got this device, let me know in the comments below what are you going to do or what are you going to run your Plex Media server on. I'm very curious to know. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and I hope to see you all in my next videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.